brushes and concrete. The icy Chicago wind, soaked with the smell of cinders and stale snow, whipped at Michael's face, but he didn't feel cold. In his stiffened hands he clutched a tattered sketchbook, the only treasure he had taken with him when he left the dreary concrete jungle of his hometown. Beside the time-yellowed sketches were stubborn sprouts of hope, small watercolor sketches made furtively on scraps of cardboard. He painted stunted trees poking through the asphalt, stubborn dandelions clinging to life in the cracks of the sidewalk, symbols of resilience that inspired him. There was no future for him in Chicago, only dead-end streets and gray high-rises covered with withered ivy, crushing him with their hopelessness. New York beckoned with the promise of change, the scent of blooming magnolias in Central Park, the opportunity to escape poverty and start a new life, painted with bright colors. By day Michael worked at a construction site, hauling heavy bags of cement, breathing in the dust and the smell of heated concrete. His hands, rough, knew only hard labor. But in the evenings, tired but full of hope, he was transformed. In a tiny rented room, where the only decoration was a pot with a persistently blooming cactus, he painted. New York, with its frenzied energy and contrasts, its street musicians and hot dog vendors, its gorgeous storefronts and homeless people sleeping on cardboard boxes under the shade of plane trees, became his muse. He painted street scenes, portraits of homeless people, skyscrapers rising up like giant sequoias, everything he saw around him through the prism of his talent. He added bright patches of green to his paintings, trees in parks, flowers on balconies, even a lone weed poking through the asphalt, reminding himself of the life that thrives even in a stone jungle. One day, while painting in Central Park, surrounded by blooming rhododendrons and azaleas, he met a famous gallery owner. The elegant man, scented with expensive cologne and an orchid in his buttonhole, stopped by Michael, intrigued by his work. He saw not just paintings, but a story told with brush and paint, a story of struggle and hope, a story that resonated in his soul. After seeing Michael's work, the gallery owner was struck by his distinctive style and offered him an exhibition. The exhibition became a sensation. Critics praised his rough poetry, urban realism, the ability to see beauty in the ordinary, and collectors bought paintings even before the official opening. Michael, a former construction worker from a poor Chicago family, became a rising star of the New York art scene. His brushes, once covered in cement dust, now created masterpieces, and the stunted trees in his early drawings turned into blossoming gardens on huge canvases, symbolizing the triumph of talent and the power of the human spirit. Now, walking through the streets of New York, Michael saw not only concrete and steel, but also living sprouts of beauty, which he learned to notice and transfer to his canvases. DeepL https://www.deepl.com/app UTM_source equals Android and UTM_medium equals app and UTM_campaign equals share translation. Rex Thunderbird Johnson never dreamed of the stars. His universe was limited to the cab of his truck, the endless roads of America bordered by thorny tumbleweed bushes, and diners with greasy food and plastic flowers on their tables. He was a trucker, like his father and grandfather, and it seemed his fate was predetermined, to wheel the roads, listening to country music and breathing in the smell of gasoline and heated asphalt. Even the little potted cactus he tried to grow in the cabin withered from lack of attention. But one day, while staying overnight in a backwater motel in Nevada, among stunted yuccas and dusty agates, Rex saw an ad, pilots needed for intergalactic transportation. Experience driving heavy trucks encouraged. Rex, who had always considered himself a down-to-earth person, suddenly felt the call of space. Perhaps it was the influence of a desert night studded with billions of stars, or the smell of unknown plants coming from behind the motel windows, but something inside him clicked. He passed the selection process, surprising the instructors with his skills at driving the bulky space freighters. Soon his trusty truck was replaced by a spaceship, and the dusty roads were replaced by star trails through nebulae that looked like giant space flowers. Thunderbird became a legend in galactic transportation, delivering cargo ranging from genetically modified orchids for space stations to equipment for mining rare minerals on asteroids covered in strange, glowing vegetation. He even managed to grow a small xenobotanical garden in his new cabin, full of outlandish plants from other planets. Proving that even the most ordinary trucker, used to Earth's cacti and tumbleweeds, can find his place among the stars and adapt to the most unusual conditions. Ottawa's grey, snowy winters seemed endless. Outside the window, a blizzard howled, covering stunted fir trees and frozen lilac bushes with snow. For David, who worked as a cashier at the local supermarket, Las Vegas was a dream symbol, an oasis amidst the grayness of his life. He put every dime he saved into a jar labeled Vegas, dreaming of the bright lights, the noise of the casinos, and the warmth of the desert, where palm trees and cacti grew instead of snow. He even bought himself a small pot of aloe to remind himself of the warmth and sunshine that awaited him in his dream city. As the years went by, the jar filled slowly but persistently. David denied himself everything, living on meager means, for the sake of his dream. He even started growing small tomatoes and herbs on the windowsill to save money on groceries. Finally, the day came when he was able to buy a one-way ticket to Las Vegas. Leaving behind snowy Ottawa and his small vegetable garden, he landed in the city of his dreams. David didn't become a millionaire, didn't win the jackpot, but he found his niche, taking a job as a bartender in a small casino decorated with plastic palm trees and bright neon signs. He saw the joy and sorrow of the players, listened to their stories, and every day he went to work he felt like he was living his life, filled with the bright colors of Vegas. He had traded the gray snows of Ottawa and his houseplants for the twinkling lights of his dreams and the exotic flora of the desert, and never once regretted it. Even the air here seemed imbued with the scent of something unfamiliar and exciting, as if the desert itself were whispering words of welcome to him.